So if we were at school, I would have these big old machines called an Elna press. Elna is just the company that makes it. It's just I just call it an Elna press. I don't know what the official name for it is called because I don't think any other company makes a home version other than Elna. But what the machine looks like is that it literally looks like an oversized panini maker. Um, and they actually use this in the industry, like manufacturers like that do what is it? Um, high count manufacturing. That's what they'll use for pressing. Then they'll also use this in like alteration stores or dry cleaning stores. And so what we do is that we would just pretty much take this piece, line it up like so, and then stick it in, and then just pull it down like a panini press, and then it'll press all of this together for us. Because it produces heat coming from the bottom and the top to be strong enough to kind of glue this all together. But obviously, we won't have access to that machine. So, how do we do it with a home iron? There is a way to do it. It's not really the greatest way of doing it, but it works enough. So I'm going to go off screen right quick and run into the next room and grab the spray bottle because I do need it for this process. And for you guys, you will need a spray bottle. If you don't have a spray bottle at home, literally a bowl of water and your fingers just like splashing it on there also works just as well. So give me just a second to go grab it. Okay, back. All right, so this is, yes. We don't have access to it. If you have one, then yeah, you're more than welcome to. You're welcome. Okay, so again, first time, if y'all don't know which side is the glue side and whatnot, protect your irons by putting a pressing cloth on it to test. Okay, so first things first is that you want to go ahead and just kind of generally press it down to make sure that it all stays within your seam allowance lines and it stays down. The heat bond tends to take it a lot better than the regular fusible one. So for the most part, it already feels like it's already stuck, but there's just some areas not quite yet. Move that out of the way. Oop. Don't want to do that. There we go. Okay, so if you had one of these at home, then you can probably go ahead and apply a lot of steam to it and it'll work. But sometimes with the home iron, they aren't just, they don't work because they're just not hot enough. So what you're going to do is that you're going to turn the steam off on your home irons and turn it up to the highest setting. So that way it allows the iron to get as hot as possible. Then what you're going to do is with the spray bottle, you're literally going to spray water directly to it. And that's going to be the steam part for you. So just like this. This is actually an old school technique. Okay, and then with that, you're just going to press your hot iron onto it and let it sit in each section. Because it already has the water on it, the steam is already enough. The iron will be hot enough because it's at the highest setting. Okay, and we're not using the steam in it because the steam kind of cools it down when you utilize the steam that's built within the iron. So that's why we have to do separate steps like that. Okay, and then just take your time. Count like 3 to 5 Mississippis in each spot. Okay, so once you're done with that, don't immediately pick it up. Let it kind of chill down a little bit because the glue is still very hot, and it hasn't settled down yet. So there's still a possibility of it lifting or shifting on you. So just literally just a second. If you're impatient, get some paper and fan it down, or just move it to the side for now. Just like that. And then you can just go on and move on to the next piece. Okay? So I want to go ahead and show you that it's pretty much the same for the rest of your pieces, but the center back one is a little bit different simply because of the placement of it. So we'll pop back on over here and I'll show you that seam allowance, how to draw it in. Okay. So this one, according to your pattern, it looks a little different because again, we have that 2-inch space on the back right there. So you do want to make sure that you do draw in that 2-inch space because again, this line right here is your actual center back, not on this edge right here. Okay, so that way when we lay our hair canvas onto it, it should sit on that line with a 2-inch gap. It should not sit like so. That would be way incorrect. Okay, so again, place your pieces on here. Make sure you trim all as necessary. And for this one in particular, I find it so much easier and faster to line up this top edge. Try it towards you. This top edge right here and this side edge. So that way, all I have to do is just trim a straight line on this side if I need to trim anything off, and then just trim this bottom edge off if I need to trim anything off. So, which I do need to do a little bit of trimming according to my pencil line right there. Yes, correct. The center back piece is the only one that's truly unique in this sense where one side is going to be 2 inches. On all your other pieces, should be 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way around. Okay, so that's my center back piece. Okay, pop on over to the iron again. Okay, so again, press it just to hold in place. Okay, so with this one, definitely going to utilize this technique. Okay, and then take my time on each section. Okay, and that should stick pretty well. So again, don't lift it up just yet. Give it a second to cool down or move it to the side. Okay, so that will be your preparation for your canvas before leading to the very last step in your preparation. Okay, do y'all have any questions about how we got here so far? Everyone's still good? Sure. Sure, that's fine. And this is also recorded too, so you can also watch this later in case you missed anything. But really quickly, what I did was that after cutting out my canvas and hair canvas, the next step that I had to do was go ahead and trace in my seam allowance on the canvas, which is the natural color, the cream color fabric. Because what we need to do is that we need to trim down the hair canvas, which is this gray looking one, because it has to stay with inside the bodice panel itself and not bleed out into the seam allowance. So that way when we sew it, we don't have additional bulk on the seam, and it's precisely on there to create enough structure for our canvas piece, because our canvas is the whole structure of the bustier itself. So after drawing in my seam allowance and then trimming down the hair canvas as needed to fit within the canvas piece, I went ahead and pressed this onto my canvas piece by doing the little trick where I set that on. If you have a home iron, go ahead and turn off the steam on your home iron and put it on the highest setting possible. And then what you're going to do is the little spray bottle trick. Again, if you don't have a spray bottle, just like a bowl of water with your fingers, and you're just going to splash a generous amount of water all the way through. And then afterwards, you're just going to let your iron pretty much steam, or not steam, but like heat at each little corner to really make sure that it sticks onto it. Is that a good enough recap? Okay, so now the real last step for completing your canvas preparation and just everything in general is that this is simply just glued down to your canvas. That's all it is. Even if we had the heat bond, I mean not heat bond, even if we had the Elmer press for it, it's still just glued down to it. So what happens is that over time, the glue may start to release or something like that. And one of the first places it starts to release and it causes kind of like a continuous ripple effect is along the edges right here. It starts to kind of peel along the edges, and then slowly it starts to kind of move inwards towards the inside. So to prevent that and try to increase the longevity of this bustier, what we're going to do is that we're going to do an edge stitch all the way around our hair canvas to really secure this fusible piece to the canvas piece. So I'm going to bring this camera and switch everything over. So I'm actually going to pause the video and let me see, what time is it right now? So it's 10:10 right now. So if y'all want to, we can do a quick 10-minute break. If y'all need to go to the bathroom, get something to drink or anything like that, be back by 10:20 for me to show you the last demo. So that way I can just give myself some time to set it up. Okay. All right. So pausing the video. Good thing we didn't get too far before I caught on. Okay. So quickly recap. We are pretty much just edge stitching all the way around. Doesn't matter what color thread you use because this will be all hidden on the inside. If you're using a dark color fashion fabric, then you can go ahead and use a dark color, but if you're using a light color fashion fabric such as white, the dark color will show through. So make sure go with light, light, dark, dark. You can also use the thread that you plan on using for your fashion fabric itself. Edge stitch, make sure you're actually stitching the hair canvas down to the canvas itself. and not just the canvas, because it happens, we make mistakes. So make sure it is an edge stitch on the hair canvas itself, and it only needs to be about 1/8 to 1/16, teeny tiny. Starting on the straight edge, not the corner, so that way it makes it easier for me to back tack. Okay, so make sure that your needle is in the down position to allow you to be able to swing it around and turn it, and then just continue stitching. And I'm just using the hair canvas as guide. Okay, and then make sure you trim off all this loose thread first. And if y'all want to know a little random tip trick when setting up your sewing room, I literally have these little nippers tied to everywhere in my studio. I literally have it attached to this sewing machine, which is why it's the string right here. I have it attached to my serger. I have it attached to my ironing board. You can just buy like a pack of these for like $7 on Amazon. And it comes in like a pack of 12 or something like that. It just makes it easier for me to have access to scissors or nippers on every part of my studio. This is actually a trick that a lot of industry professionals do, just so that they're not having to worry about where's my pair of scissors or where's my nippers. It's already attached to the machine everywhere. I have it tied to this little knee lift that I have right here on the side. So that's just a little fun trick if you want to introduce that into your studio in the future. Okay, so I'm coming back around to it, and all I'm going to do is just stitch right over it and back tack. And that's it. So that's my piece all stitched down. That's what it looks like. Okay, so you'll do that for all of your pieces. So that would be 3, 3, 6. You should have 7 pieces that you'll do this to.